The Latter-day Saints people all dressed the same in white shirts and black jackets and all carried the same smart black briefcases. They always left the house together, walking in a line, and as they passed you, they would each nod at you, one after the other, like ducks in a shooting gallery. Anthony thought they were too conspicuous. "Look at them," he'd say, "like penguins in a playground. And you know where they're going with the briefcases, don't you?" "Of course, to help the poor," I replied. I don't know why I hadn't thought of it before. They called themselves saints, so there must be a reason for it. "They go and help the poor," I said. "The laundrette. Look," Anthony said. It was true. If you looked carefully, there was always a corner of an undie sticking out of the smart black briefcase. So they had no washing machine and they had no cars. They all lived together in the same house, and in the daytime they all went off together like the 12 apostles. You know what they were? They were a set of rungs waiting to be climbed. That was my brilliant idea. Give the money to the Latter-day Saints. After school the next day, I sat on the wall and waited till the first one came home. "Excuse me," I said, "do you help the poor?" "What poor? Excuse me?" He had a strong accent like a footballer. Maybe he was from Sweden or Holland? Any. "You're asking for money?" "No." "We have no cash on the premises. Don't take the wrong idea from our respectable clothing. We live simply. No dishwasher, no cable TV, no microwave, even though I don't see why personally. Or also no car, obviously." "So you're poor?" I asked. In a sense, yes." I managed to shove £7,000 through their letterbox that night when I was supposed to be taking the rubbish out. After the first few hundred, I got worried that it seemed to be taking ages, so I prayed for help and St. Nicholas turned up. He explained that it was easier to drop it down the chimney. I explained to him about solar heating. After we'd done about £4,000, St. Nicholas got bored and cross. It was his busiest time of year. He said, "Don't worry about it, the poor will always be with us," and he walked back to the house. I asked him if he'd ever come across St. Maureen. "Why?" he asked. "Maureen? I don't think so, but then I don't get out much." "Except at this time of year, obviously," I said. "Yes," he replied. "If we were saying £500 equals one rung, then 4,000 is 8 rungs. Plus, I helped Santa on his round. Quality." I was on a roll. I wasn't even surprised when I spotted another rung in the playground before school started. When the second whistle went, we all walked quickly to our lines, and I was in front of Barry. He leaned into my ear and said, "Pringles." I passed them back to him. The girl with the lovely corn rose was in the next line. She said, "Why don't you buy your own Pringles?" "Don't need to. I eat everyone else's." Barry popped the lid of mine and winked at me. It was the wink that put the thought in my head. I thought, "Hello, this is another rung." And I said, "Barry, are you poor?" Barry's left eyelid had still not come up from its wink. Now it fluttered a bit, then it opened wide, wide, and stared into mine. "What? Are you poor?" I repeated. He hit me very hard across the face. I remembered to turn the other cheek. He hit me in the stomach. I had to sit on the floor to get my breath back. He put his shoe next to my face and said, "See that shoe? What does it say?" It said Rockport. Would I have Rockports if I was poor? And then he kicked me and I couldn't breathe for what seemed like a long weekend. Now, This might sound like it wasn't that successful, but that depends on how you look at it. It's true, I didn't help a poor person, but I did try, so that's got to be worth a rung. And more importantly, I did suffer persecution, which is just fantastic. I mean, 5 rungs at least. In fact, as I was lying on the tarmac, I actually did start to feel a bit floaty, like I might rise up into heaven. Anthony said this was due to the change in air pressure inside my head caused by the loss of blood from my nose. It was the blood that made the girl with the lovely cornrows start screaming. Mr. Quinn came running over. Barry kept saying, "Do you know what he said? Do you know what he said?" Mr. Quinn sent him to the head and told the girl with the cornrows to take me off to the quiet corner while I recovered my equilibrium. She got me a drink of water and started chatting to me. She told me her name was Gemma and asked me lots of questions, such as, what team does your Anthony support? And what music does your Anthony like? And does your Anthony ever go to the early bird session at the swimming baths first thing on a Saturday? Because it's free if you've got your leisure pass. Can you tell him? On the way home, I asked Anthony about what's so special about Rockports. Rockports? That's a great idea. We could both have a pair. But why? I asked. They're great. You tuck the laces in the side instead of tying them up. Dead, state of the art. And they really hurt if someone kicks you with them, I said. Right, we'll get some, he replied. Surprisingly, there actually was a St. Gemma. Her name was St. Gemma Galligani, 1878 to 1903. She was an ecstatic who excelled in the practice of heroic poverty, and her feast is the 11th of April. I was in the Hermitage trying to look up heroic poverty when someone said, "Anyone there?" I looked out and there was a tall man in a Tommy Hilfiger jacket with lots of stubble on his face. The stubble made me think it might be St. Damien, who was looking a bit rough, though was very good. But that didn't really tie in with the Hilfiger jacket. He definitely wasn't St. Gemma. I said, I don't know who you are. He said, "Mutual that then." I tried to look him in the eye, but I realised one eye was looking straight at me and the other eye was looking off to the left. I wasn't sure which eye to look into. "This yours?" he asked, pointing at the Hermitage. I nodded. "Very nice. Close to the railway. What's inside?" He bent down and peeped in. He couldn't see the scooters or the Airzuka because they were still covered by the tartan blanket. He put his hand in and rooted round. He found the little tube. "What's this?" "Tinted moisturiser." He nodded and looked off into the distance. He threw the tube to me. "What are you looking for?" I asked. "Money. Know anything about it?" This was brilliant. This was the second opportunity in one day. I said, "Are you poor?" "What?" The minute I said it, there was a crackling sound, and then a crackling voice said, "Damien, Damien." Even I jumped a bit, but the stubbly man sort of bounced with shock. "What the hell is that?" I showed him the walkie-talkie wristwatch. "It's my brother. My turn to set the table. You wait here. Now, oi, you hang on. No, honest, I'll be back with it." "With what?" "The money. I've got tons of it." I ran off. Anthony was standing in the garden because the walkie-talkie wristwatch didn't work through walls. Well, it did, but it picked up Red Rose Radio. He was leaning over the fence looking towards the railway. You could still see the man standing on the railway embankment. "Who's that then?" "Poor person. Yet another poor person. And you said there weren't any, Anthony." "What's he waiting for?" "I'm going to give him some money." I was going into the house. Anthony pulled me back. What have you said? I've told him we've got loads of money. Oh, Damien. What? Nothing. Leave it to me. Anthony went and got the big bottle we'd been saving the change in. It weighed a ton. We'll give him this, Anthony said. Can't we give him a few £100 as well, like 500? No, we can't. Why not? I'll tell you why, not later. Come on. We went back up to the railway. He was waiting for us. When Anthony held out the big bottle, he just stared at it. Or possibly he was staring at me. See, said Anthony, loads of money. We've been saving it for ages for the poor. We try to be good. Take it. The man didn't move. Anthony put the bottle down on the grass. We've got to go now. Tea time. The man didn't say anything, didn't touch the bottle. He watched us when we were walking back across the field. I don't think we gave him enough money. We gave him plenty. Go round the front way, said Anthony. I don't want him to know which one is our house. Why not? I asked. Because it's dangerous. We've got to be careful. Some people in the world are greedy, Damien. Money makes them act weird. You've got to be careful. Have you told anyone else about it? Not really. Not told. What have you done? I've tried to be good, I said. Damien. But he stopped talking then. We were just coming into the close from the top end and a taxi passed us and pulled up. The Latter-day Saints started to pile out. The Latter-day Saints and their recent purchases. One was carrying a microwave, another had a blender, and another had a foot spa. Anthony was so cross he had to sit down on the wall. It was a pity he did that, really. If he'd just gone inside, he wouldn't have seen the van pull up and unload, the DVD player, the dishwasher, the GameCube, and the 2 plasma screen televisions. It wasn't the fact that I'd given them the money that upset him. It was the fact that they'd managed to spend it. Look at all the stuff they've got. And what have we got? Junk. Junk that people were going to give to Oxfam anyway. 2 tellies, a dishwasher. He went on and listed everything they'd bought. He did this 10 times. It was a very impressive feat of memory. I didn't know they were going to buy a telly. I thought they were going to give it away. They're supposed to be saints after all. I thought they were going to give it to the poor. I thought they were poor. Look, Damien, if you give poor people money, what happens to them? They stop being poor, obviously. And if they're not poor anymore, what are they? They're the same as everyone else. So that was when I had this worrying thought. What if giving people more money just makes people more money-ish? And if it does, what's all the money for? What can we do with it? After supper, there was a knock at the door. Dad answered it, and it was one of the Latter-day Saints, Eli, carrying a little box and looking very anxious. Anthony and I were washing up. We looked at each other nervously. Probably going to ask for more money now, growled Anthony. Eli said he had an idea he wished to share with us. Then he opened a box and took out a tiny camera. This is a security camera, CCTV. It mounts easily to the door lintel using a bracket arrangement here and then hooks up very simply to your domestic television. Anthony sniffed bitterly and said, television or televisions? Eli didn't notice. We were most anxious about this very high likelihood of a burglary in the area, he said. Terry says there's been a suspicious character and of course we must protect our property. This camera could be most useful in this regard. We've bought 3 such. and we wish to position one with a clear line of vision across the main point of access to the close, from your front door to the carport of number 3. The ideal positioning would be your lintel. Would you be willing to assist the community in this way? I said, I thought you didn't mind about burglaries. I thought you didn't care about earthly goods. Well, of course, in this sense is true, he said. But we do not have security. If we do not have security, then we're tempting the burglar, not so? And so tempting him is a sin. We therefore become assistants to the sin. The camera comes with a reflective halogen lighting, which prevents any such thoughts. Great, said Dad. Personally, I went to bed. I lay there listening to Dad clanging up and down the stepladder and drilling holes for the CCTV bracket. Then I fell asleep. It felt like I'd been asleep for hours when I heard him calling up to us. Anthony and I hurried downstairs to see what was up. He was very excited. Just sit there, he said, pointing to the couch. We sat down. He turned the TV on and stared, flicking through the channels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now 6 was a picture of the carport of number 3, which had a life-size illuminated Santa sitting outside. That's the terrestrial channels and the new CCTV channel. That much we know. Now, 7, 8, 9, 10, he went through all the new channels with a big happy grin on his face. Anthony smiled too and said, Brilliant, Dad, how did you do it? I was just fixing the CCTV, Dad said, and there it was. It must be something to do with the cable. Maybe it acts as some sort of aerial. Maybe it's a miracle. It was the first time we had seen him smile in ages. Thank you, God, he said. I explained that St. Clair was the patron saint of television. If it is a miracle, it's one of hers. Right, well, what do you fancy watching? We all watched the repeat of Monster Truck Tug of War until we realised Dad had fallen asleep. We didn't know what to do with him. We couldn't carry him upstairs. We just took off his shoes, moved his feet up onto the couch and covered him with a small duvet. We weren't sure whether to turn the telly off or not. I said, couldn't we just tell him about the money, just to cheer him up? Anthony said, if you want to cheer him up, tell him a joke. Outside, the reflective halogen light kept going off. It obviously did not prevent cats.